Good evening. Today is Thursday, June 4th, 2026. I'd like to call this meeting of the Auburn City Council to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Diego.
Here.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Here.
Councilor Cuddy.
Here.
Councilor Clarko.
Here.
Mayor Genatino.
Here, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer or reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. Public announcements.
Thanks, Mayor. We do have a couple of announcements this evening. The first is that we just wanted to start to get the word out to the public that summer rec program for 2026 is just a month away from starting. And new this year, we have a registration process which is underway as of June 1st for all children looking to participate in the summer rec. Their parents or guardians will need to register them ahead of time. The registration packets are placed on the city's website. The information is on the screen in front of everybody. And we have already received a couple of dozen applications. We just put the notice out a couple of days ago. People can pick up and drop off the applications here at the registration forms here at City Hall. The point of contacts are either the Parks and Recreation office in the basement or the city clerk's office on the first floor. And we're just going to do everything we can to try to spread the word, get as many children pre-registered for this year's summer rec as possible before the end of the month. The first day of summer rec is June 30th at the end of the month, once school's out. Next, this is home opening day for the Auburn Double Days. So wanted to give a shout out to our Double Days. Their home games are all played at Falcon Park down in Auburn. Their home schedule's on the screen there, but doing everything we can to help promote. It's a great night of summer fun for families, pretty affordable down there at Falcon Park. Cuyahoga County is having a tire collection and recycling event this Saturday, June 6th, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. out on 7413 County House Road here in Auburn. There is a fee to dispose of the tires under 30 inches, $2, above 30 inches, $5. This is for residents of the city only, and there is a limit of the county, city and county only, and there is a limit of 40 tires per person that goes out there. But it's a great opportunity to properly recycle tires from your vehicles, and this is an event they hold every year. And the final announcement is we've made some announcements pertaining to summer. People have been wondering if things will be happening this summer. Things are on schedule, and movie nights will be happening in July and August on Monday nights. We've received great response from businesses and organizations sponsoring our Monday night movies this summer, so the schedule has been posted to the city's website, and we'll be promoting this on social media and through the emails, and trying to spread the word. There will be plenty. We'll have some announcements about Hoops Park concerts coming up here in the next week, but there will be plenty of great summer things to do thanks to a lot of generous donations that have been made out in our city parks this summer. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. We have a proclamation this evening for D-Day National Remembrance Day and 299th Combat Engineer Battalion Day.
Thanks, Mayor. Proclamation from the Office of the Mayor. Whereas June 6, 2026 marks the 82nd anniversary of the D-Day landings in the Battle of Normandy and is the day that marked the beginning of the end of World War II. And whereas on D-Day an estimated 156,000 American, British, and Canadian troops landed on the beaches of the Normandy region of France for what would be one of the largest military assaults in history. And whereas our servicemen showed courage, dedication, compassion, and self-sacrifice as they fought for freedom, for the world, and the end of the horrors of the Holocaust. And whereas in March of 1943, over 60 young men from the Auburn area missed the final months of their senior year of high school as they were drafted to join the United States Army, reporting to Fort Niagara to begin their service, eventually assigned to the 299th Combat Engineer Battalion. And whereas the 299th Combat Engineer Battalion was comprised of these servicemen from Auburn, New York, and hundreds of others from towns and cities from across upstate New York. And whereas the servicemen of the 299th Combat Engineer Battalion were some of the first American soldiers to set foot on the beaches of Normandy. And whereas the following men who became known as the Auburn Boys served as part of the 299th Combat Engineer Battalion's mission on June 6, 1944. John Brannock, Claude Brown, James Burke, Anthony J. Butera, Giacomo Capello, Anthony T. Contrera, Steve Cook, Joseph Costello, Joseph H. Coyle, Daniel G. Cristodero, Nicholas Vincent DeAngelis, Dominic A. Di Benedetto, Anthony N. Di Tommaso, Chester W. DeBari, Sam J. DeFabio, Byron E. Dustman, Nicola Falciccio, Wallace F. Filkins, Edward Galbelli, Anthony N. Gasparo, John H. Gleason, Harold E. Green, Charles W. Hawalka, Charles W. Hulbert Jr., Leo A. Indelicato, Melchior La Rosa, Joseph C. Leonti, Harry L. Lull, Angelo Manna, Frank J. Morbido, Joseph J. Morbido, Richard L. Nash, Wilson J. Neer Jr., Larry Nettie, Thomas J. Nettie, William L. O'Brien, James F. O'Byrne, Thomas G. O'Connell, Carmen D. Ottaviano, Raymond C. Painter, Henry J. Pearson Jr., Anthony A. Petrosino, Thomas Phillips, James B. Remage, Carl H. Reese, Lawrence A. Roberts, Stephen Ruzico, Sam V. Scolaro, William J. Secor, Carmelo Signorelli, Charles W. Smith, Dominic A. Spano, John Spinelli, Herbert M. Staggerwald, Bruce A. Stigner, Anthony Serace, William J. Titus, Severio G. Trinca, Samuel J. Vella, James Walter, Francis Wyrick, and George J. Wilson Jr. And whereas on D-Day, the following men from the Auburn, New York area gave their lives on the beaches of Normandy in the liberation of Europe: Claude D. Brown, Nicholas Vincent DeAngelis, Leo A. Indelicato, Thomas J. Phillips, Lawrence A. Roberts, and John R. Spinelli. And now therefore, James Genentino Jr., Mayor of the City of Auburn, on behalf of the City Council and citizens of Auburn, does hereby proclaim Saturday, June 6, 2026 as D-Day National Remembrance Day and 299th Combat Engineer Battalion Day here in the City of Auburn. And we encourage our citizens and visitors to take time to remember our fellow Auburnians and all who fought and died so men and women they had never met might know what it is to live in freedom.
Thank you. This remembrance has become a tradition here in the City of Auburn. You'll see pictures of the front railing. Those pictures actually hang in my office. It's important to me that they hang in my office. It's a reminder to me that no matter how bad my day is or what problem I'm dealing with on that particular day, that there's people who have gone through worse, so that we can go through the things we're going through. In that list of names is one of my uncles, Severio Trinca. Very important part of my life growing up. He actually used to sit in the back row of these meetings for probably about 20 years, Mr. Clerk. When I was a grad student at SUNY Oswego, I did a research project on the 299th. And I was inspired to do that by my uncle, Sam Trinka. But during that process, I got to meet and talk to Dom DiBenedetto, Anthony DiTomaso, Dom Spano, Bill Secor, and I spoke with the sisters and brothers of Nicholas DeAngelis and Leo Indelicato, who both lost their lives that day. And I know that they're all looking down, and their families are thankful that we continue to remember them. I think that's important, and I just want to acknowledge the public for being here tonight and participating in that. Thank you. We'll move on to the public to be heard.
At this point in time, we will open the public to be heard portion of the council meeting. Residents are asked to state their name and address for the record. Please keep remarks to 3 minutes or less, and please observe commonly accepted rules of courtesy and decorum.
Is there anybody wishing to be heard? Mr. Udo, either podium, sir.
James Udall, 106 Osborne Street. Just wanted to report on that delinquent FOIL request. I was able to get most of the information from the city clerk yesterday. So thank you, city clerk. I also want to thank Councilor Diego for facilitating that request as well, or making it happen. Within the, there were two main takeaways in the information that I've been able to review so far. The information is dozens of documents. So the two initial takeaways, I had wanted to know how much money the city is backstopping the county for their delinquent unpaid property taxes. Right now, the city is into the county tax for $644,000, with probably, according to the treasurer's testimony a few months ago, another $400,000 to be cut to the county in the next several weeks. So the city of Auburn is basically bankrolling another government agency for their uncollected taxes. And what I found very interesting is, you know, our budget's like $53 million. The county's 198. They're 4 times our budget, and yet we're like the poor relation, and then we give the county money that they can't collect. I don't understand it. I've been in real estate and mortgage for a very long time, and I can't see the benefit of doing that, especially if it's not mandated by law. You know, we do it for the school, but I think that there's some regulation that we have to do it for the school, but we don't have to do it as timely as we might otherwise do it. You could delay it for a couple of years. You could use it as a bargaining chip with the school to get them to maybe help pay for the crossing guards or some other expenses. I mean, it's business, right? The other takeaway, initial takeaway, was that there's currently in Auburn, we have 7,700 taxable properties. There's 536 that are currently in some state of tax delinquency. That's 7%. So 1 out of every 14 Auburn properties is in some state of tax default. 7% is a critical number. Again, I've been in mortgage. It only took a mortgage delinquency rate of 7.5% nationwide to topple the mortgage industry in 2008. This affects you know, cash flow from the city. You can have a budget saying, hey, we're going to collect $53 million, but if 7% of your population doesn't pay, your revenue is going to come short. And then you're going to say, well, we're short, and maybe we have to, you know, increase taxes again the following year.
30 seconds.
It's a critical issue. You guys need to look at that, and it's something that is only going to be made worse by raising the tax cap. You can't expect the delinquency rate on taxes to go down when you're raising the tax cap. So you can expect probably 8, 9, 10% tax delinquency rate going forward. So I'll have more comments when we talk about the tax cap. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else wishing to be heard this evening? Mr. Donovan?
Good evening. Timothy Donovan, 23 Chandel Place, here in Auburn, New York. Mary Jean Antino, members of the Auburn City Council, members of the dais, Mr. Garland, and attending guests. I know we've witnessed a lot of calamity and chaos the past few weeks about certain departments, but I'm here today to share a positive story about one of our departments in the city of Auburn. And a very professional department. Last Friday afternoon at about 1:45, I was driving west on Genesee Street, heading downtown when I noticed the Auburn Fire Department driving up past East Hill, and they turned onto Gaylord Street. I passed the street, I noticed flames coming from a dwelling on the left side of the street. You could see the smoke. And the department settled in and starting to do their professional job combating that fire. I parked my car and I just had interest in walking down. You could see the flames coming from the left side of the porch and a lot of smoke. And the firemen doing a great job, but the two residents in that apartment, the man and the woman, his significant other, had gotten out safely. But there's a lot of smoke, and a lot of families started coming out of their homes with children. And the owner became concerned. There were 3 pets in the house. The firemen doing a good job to quell the flames. But it became a scene of hectic where the owner, the tenant of the apartment, had a dog, a Labrador Retriever dog. And many kids were coming out, the crowds were gathering. You could see other dogs in the door windows. So everybody in this camaraderie of us acknowledged they were pet lovers. And as the fire grew or being quelled, became that the owner, they were pleading with the firemen to please get their pets if they could rescue
30
their
seconds.
pets. Thank you, Mayor. And it was a difficult job. Long story short, after 10 minutes, you got to realize people were high emotions, in tears. We thought the pets were going to be lost. But the good news is, after a while, the dog came running out of the apartment, ran down this Gaylord Street with the owner chasing him. And then 5 to 7 minutes later, in between, the firemen went in with the smoke.
Mr. Donovan, your time's up, sir.
I just want to finish this good story.
Your time's up. We have to be consistent with everybody.
Anyways, it was a positive outcome. All the pets got out.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations to Chief Fritz on his department.
Is there anybody else wishing to be heard this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Dale Buckberger, 2276 Overbrook Drive, Town of Aurelius. I also own commercial property at 91 Columbus Street in the city of Auburn. The following merely one person's observations. Take it, leave it, ignore it, your call. A study in 2025 revealed that approximately 83% of voters do not trust government, meaning elected officials and unelected anointed officials. Meanwhile, a recent survey revealed that 74% of the U.S. population does in fact trust gas station sushi. After attending the last 2 city council meetings regarding the budget, it didn't take long to figure out why. It has to do with perspective and line of sight. In this room, we have 2 views, typically 180 degrees from each other. Just a different perspective on the same object. In X-ray, we always include 2 minimal views of 90 degrees to each other. That gives us a better perspective. The 90-degree view appears to be missing in this room. Last week, the 90-degree view identified language that was, on a good day, insulting to the taxpayers and the property owners. Unfortunately, this has become the governmental norm. The discussion regarding the budget sounded like inclusive city government was playing with monopoly money. May I remind you that there is no such thing as city, state, or federal money. It is all taxpayer money. It was revealed at the last meeting that the city has department heads throwing around budgetary requests, not as though there are economic issues, but they're literally playing monopoly. Again, it's the language. Well, we'll cut them 75%. We'll cut them from 180% to 50%. We'll cut them to 25%. I can't run my personal or business budget like that. Neither can the villagers. That in and of itself was insulting. To taxpayers and the property owners, especially commercial property owners like myself, that are taxed without the ability to cast a vote, are not your personal piggy bank that you run to every time a budget is miscalculated, or worse, the leaders fail to let their subordinates know. This is a need-to-know budget time, not a nice-to-have budget time. For the last 40 years or so, I've practiced by one unyielding principle, Einstein's definition of insanity. Sooner or later, you have to do something different.
30
You can't do the
seconds.
same thing over and over and expect a different result. It served me well, and I recommend it often. I'll leave the brass rail with a quote from Margaret Thatcher. Eventually, you run out of other people's money. Probably about an hour away from that. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else wishing to be heard this evening? Mr. Bishop?
Good evening. My name is Andrew Bishop. I live at 19 Bradford Street, and I don't drink the water here in Auburn. I have a reverse osmosis machine in my house. You know, there's a lot of taxpayers and voters out here probably doing the same thing too. I'm sure there's people behind that brass rail. Now, because I spoke out, I suddenly started getting all kinds of funny taxes on my regular taxes coming out of the fire department. And 2 years ago, I filed a FOIL request with them. Now, by law, in case you didn't know, Mr. Mayor, and I'm sure the city attorney could let you know about this, they're obligated to have their own records access officer and respond to any. 2 years waiting, well, guess what? I got a new one. Now I'm going to ask for their bank statements and their credit card reports. Now, getting back to what's really the important part about the water. Like I said, the DPW is doing whatever they can, but eventually everybody's, I'm sure, behind that door, yeah, you're going to have to start using reverse osmosis to keep that water drinkable, because things like enteric bacteria are next. Look that one up. It's like duck itch on steroids. So anyway, very quickly, here's the rules, some of them anyway, for the City Hall. Mr. Udall was kind enough to give them to me. Although, unlike him, I don't get my FOIL request. Oh, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask for a FOIL request from the city, too, regarding how much money is being collected by that vacant house registry. All right, right here. Council shall not immediately address the concerns of any individual speaker until all members of the public desiring to be heard have had the opportunity to speak. It'd be like people like Mr. Udall and myself. Once all the individuals from the public desiring to be heard have spoken, the presiding officer shall then close that portion of the meeting. A presiding officer shall then, doesn't say maybe, might, yeah, maybe we'll do it. It says shall then facilitate addressing individual matters. You know, like me talking about stable isotope analysis to find out who the culprits are following Wasco Lake. Brought forth during, and I continue now, during this public portion of the meeting with the assistance of the city manager. Any members of the city council upon it may provide input upon recognition of the
30
presiding
seconds.
officer. I'm going to put this down for a moment. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. All you people there think, oh, that's just silly talk. The fire department never would have happened because he talked about that. Oh, because why? Because he wants to find out who the culprits are. Just like Mr. Udall said, you know what this is? This is a check for $3,000 made out to the city of Auburn when the memo says for stable isotope analysis. Now, just like Mr. Udall.
Your time's
did,
up, sir.
I'm going to put that there. If the
Thank
attorney
you.
brings it over to me, I'll assume not.
You're-
If so, that's a contractual obligation.
Your time's up.
My money's good. God bless America, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Is there anyone else wishing to be heard this evening?
Good evening. Good evening. Lon Fricano, 321 Bacchus Road. you know who I am, I know who you are. I'm concerned about what's happening from not just a financial point of view, but from a cultural and emotional point of view. I moved here almost 40 years ago, and I love it. I love the city of Auburn. I love Cayuga County. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I worked hand in glove with the city for almost 30 years, providing ambulance service to this community. I risked my life day and night for this community, working alongside others who do the same thing, firefighters, police officers. So it pains me to see the situation being what it is and bad feelings dominating this. There are no bad people in this room. Now, I'm 78 years old. I'm retired. Self-funded retirement, not one penny of taxpayer money is going into my retirement. So I know what it is to be a working man, okay? And trying to save every penny you can for the future. But you can get into a difficult mentality sometimes where everybody wants the city to be financially okay, but are we willing to do what is necessary to make that happen? You have I watched last week's city council meeting, and Mr. Diego clearly explained the nature of our problem. You have a structural problem. Until you fix that structural problem, nothing you put on paper in a budget has any significance whatsoever. It's arbitrary and capricious. No bad people, just some bad decisions along the way, some lack of supervision. You have 5 people on a council that's in a city that's in a financial crisis, and only one person's done an analysis, a line-by-line analysis. I don't know why that's possible. I would think, maybe usually it wouldn't be necessary, but in this circumstance, it should be absolutely what folks are doing. I know. So I'll leave it with this. When I stood here last time, I know there's some people probably think I have an axe to grind with the city. I do not. I love the city of Auburn. I love the people. I have family here. I own property here. Okay? And soon I'll be out of your hair. I'm 78 years old, so, I won't be around too long.
Time's up, sir.
What's that?
Your time's up, sir.
Did you say 30 seconds?
I said 30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
No, that's too bad.
Can I say one sentence?
So, time's up.
I offered to save the city $10 million. Only one person has asked me how to do that, and that was Mr. Diego.
Your time's up, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to be heard this evening? Ms. Okuzik?
My name's Pamela Cusick. I live on Chapman Avenue. So I don't see Mr. Bonifano here again from the Auburn Police Department. I find that strange since he seemed to have such a hard problem with the fact that we were going to have to get rid of some police officers. And he had so much to say about it and threw such a tizzy fit about what the Auburn Police Department was not going to do and what shifts they were going to cut and everything and how important their jobs were, yet he hasn't showed up since. So I went online and I pulled some of their statistics, and I'd like to share what I found. The Auburn Police Department is paid 17% more than the average police department here in New York State. So Auburn's paid 17%, our officers are paid 17% more than the average police department. In 2024, they responded to 20,758 calls, yet they were short 5 officers, yet they still responded to those calls and did a wonderful job at it. And they came in month after month and gave their officers pats on the back, gave them all the kudos that they needed. In 2025, they responded to 30,844 calls, and they were short 8 officers. Yet this year, and last year, 7 of those officers were down at A.T. Wally's fighting in the bar. And they cost our city $50,000 in overtime fees. But this year, when we don't have the money and we have to possibly cut a couple officers, this year, they're not short officers. Yet the minute we say we might have to cut a couple officers, in the prior years, they've been short multiple officers and still did their job and did it really, really well.
30 seconds, Ms. O'Connor.
But this year, when we say we might have to cut an officer or two, Bonifano, the president, comes in and says, well, if you're going to cut our officers, we're not going to do this shift. We're not going to do this shift. We're going to shut our drug force and everything. But you still did the job in 2024, and you still did the job in 2025. But I guess he got his wish by putting that murder on the internet, didn't he? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Okazik. Is there anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? All right, we'll close the public to be heard. Move on to the approval of the meeting minutes from May 14th. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Clarko, seconded by Councilor Cuddy. Any questions, discussion, or changes? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilor Diego?
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy?
Yes.
Councilor Clarko?
Aye.
Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item, just drawing everybody's attention to the city's website and bid opportunities. There is one on there, building contractors for the vacant rental program, which are due on June 16th. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Haynes? Reports from members of council? Councilor Clarko?
I would just like to share that I had a wonderful opportunity this past weekend to go out to Fleming Memorial Cemetery on 34B. Brian Lynn and his family restored and renovated 25 Revolutionary War soldiers' gravestones with donations that came in from mainly from Home Depot. And he put placards up so people can go out there and actually see the gravestones and actually get information about those individuals that served during the Revolutionary War. It was really all very impressive, and I learned that I have a great grandfather who served in the Revolutionary War. So it's really impressive work that was done out there in remembrance of the 250th anniversary. So just wanted to give a shout out to him and that work that they did.
Very nice, thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Diego?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Corporation Counsel Garland. He took some time to meet with me on Tuesday, and after that I met with the city manager, city comptroller, and the mayor. Appreciate you guys taking a couple hours. We discussed a lot of stuff that was discussed last week. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Councilor Diego. Anyone else? Monday, I was invited to attend the Book Buddies program at Genesee Elementary School. I read with the second grade class. They were a delight to be around. Librarian there does a terrific job. Tuesday, we had Passport to History here at City Hall. Welcome the fourth graders from Seward School. They asked a lot of very good questions. And then today, Councilor Diego and myself attended the annual, actually I think it was the 40th annual Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics. Chief Andrasco was there with members of his department who participated. Always a great event. Many thanks to law enforcement for carrying that tradition on, and to the organizers for making Special Olympics possible. This evening we do have local law number 1 on the agenda. With council's permission, what I'd like to do is move that to the end of the meeting so that we can, during staff vendor presentations, other business from the council, address some of the concerns that came up last week, have further budget discussion. I think that's warranted before we vote on local law number 1. Is everybody agreeable with that? All right, very good. First resolution this evening is Agreement Resolution number 50 of 2026, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with BOCES for the Auburn Conservation Corps Summer Camp. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Cuddy, second by Councilor Clarko.
Agreement Resolution 50 of 2026, whereas the City of Auburn was awarded federal funding through the United States Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, Urban and Community Forestry Program for the purchase of managing and growing the city's urban forest and instilling a sense of civic duty and stewardship of the environment through community and educational partnerships. And whereas the Cayuga Onondaga BOCES Regional Education Center will be offering summer camps in July 2026 that will include Auburn Conservation Corps, a camp open to middle school students that would engage in a 4-day urban forestry and environmental curricula, including field trips related to water quality, climate change, and tree planting. Whereas the City of Auburn and BOCES have an interest together in providing the Auburn Conservation Corps Summer Camp from July 27, 2026 to July 30th, 2026 that will require personnel, transportation, and supply costs in an estimated amount up to $8,000 reimbursable through the United States Department of Agriculture Forest Service grant to be charged to capital account HA 8562440MB. And whereas the City of Auburn and BOCES wish to continue the cooperative agreement established in 2023 pursuant to Article 5G of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York to provide and share services that each of them may provide to their respective constituencies. And whereas the City of Auburn and BOCES have reached a proposed agreement attached hereto and incorporated herein as to the terms and conditions of such intermunicipal agreement and are desirous of memorializing their understandings, expectations, and representations as to the agreement. And whereas the Board of Cooperative Education Services for Cayuga County and Onondaga County's BOCES has or will soon approve the same. Now therefore be it resolved, the Auburn City Council does hereby authorize the mayor to enter into a municipal agreement between the City of Auburn and BOCES for the establishment of the Auburn Conservation Corps Summer Camp, which is attached hereto, incorporated herein. Thanks, Mayor.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or discussion from the council? Councilor Cuddy?
Yes, I just want to give a brief overview of where this camp generated. So as the clerk said, about 3 years ago, out of some of the discussions about engaging the youth in summertime through educational activities, working with Walt Aikman, who wanted to start a Auburn Conservation Corps, we started a basic camp at BOCES, but the camp did their work within the City of Auburn. So we had a very small budget, and we were able to, for 2 summers, work with 8 to 10 campers and do the work described in this resolution for both summers. Last year, due to budget and time commitments, we were not able to do that. But with the USDA Forest Service and Urban Community Program, our grant writer here in Auburn, Ms. Selvik, had mentioned that this program was was a really good opportunity for us to bring this back. And so what I did was I worked with Cayuga Onondaga BOCES, where I work, and I worked with the administration to bring this camp into the Summer Career Connections program. So it would have the how do I want to say, the administrative oversight, but the grant funding would fund the teachers. So this was a great opportunity to have staff like myself, New York State trained teachers, to run the summer camp. And I do believe that there are four Auburn and Large City School District teachers that are going to be involved, and the idea is to increase enrollment so that we can offer this program to more campers than we have in the past. In the past, it was volunteer, myself, and then myself and Walt Aikman and an Auburn school teacher at a lower rate than teachers earn. This year, this is in line with what BOCES teachers, the camp, make, and this basically BOCES serves as the throughput for this grant opportunity. It's a culmination of years of work thanks to Walt Aikman, but also this past year, a lot of work has been done to make this happen, and we hope that it can happen next summer and in the future. Even when the grant does run out, we're hoping that one of the teachers will stay in the program and be part of the Summer Career Connections camp. But this is a really specialized version of the Summer Career Connections camp, and we hope that after the funding is over, that BOCES will fund this program on their own, and it will be a little bit more scaled down, but we're hoping that this will prepare the teacher to teach this program for years to come.
Very good. Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions or comments by the council? Counselor Diego?
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple questions real fast. Obviously, a great program for the kids. Appreciate Councilor Cuddy setting it up. Only question I had, maybe you can ask Ms. Selvik if she has a moment. Just I had one question. We spoke a little bit back in April about this. The first time it came up at the meeting, this and that, and I had asked about shifting the money from a different line item. I know you said you had a phone call with that TPL coming up. Did they ever respond or let us know? The only reason I'm asking is I know that as of next week after the Civil Service Commission meets, we're going to be trying to hire that tree trimmer spot. I think Mary Beth had said that we have to hire that guy, or we're going to lose a couple $100,000 in grant money. The only concern I had was shifting it from the services line that was specifically for workers, tree trimmer, this and that. I just wanted to know if they had ever responded back that, because we had over $500,000 in the one that was annotated for Crane Brook and outsourcing stuff. Did they ever say we could use the money for that instead, so that the other money's there when we have to hire that spot in the next week or two?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, they did. Yes, they said we could use the funding for the tree trimmer.
I'm saying out of which line is what I'm speaking of?
So the services line
Correct.
had $430,000, I believe, in there for tree work. They did give us a budget amendment form, so we'll just need to file that with them.
Right, so we can just use it out of what we were going to pay, like outsource to Crane Brook, instead of using the first line that said MOE and tree trimmer and all that. I just didn't want to take it out of the line that had the least amount of money when there was a lot of money left in that other line.
Right, there's still money left in the staff line. We're just going to move some money out of consulting and services into the staff line.
Right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Selvig? Thank you, ma'am.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Cuddy, thank you for your work in continuing this program. I know it's been well received and well attended in past summers, and I think it's an important tool for our youth, so thank you. Please call the roll.
Counselor Diego?
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Clarko? Aye. Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
Excuse me. Financial Resolution Number 51 of 2026, accepting insurance proceeds for fiscal year 2025-2026. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Clarko, seconded by Counselor Overstreet Wilson.
Financial Resolution 51 of 2026, whereas the City of Auburn is in receipt of insurance funds as a reimbursement for vehicle damages, and whereas the City of Auburn staff is requesting an operating budget adjustment for the 2025-26 fiscal year to increase revenue account A992680 insurance recoveries and expenditure account A4540482 vehicle maintenance in the amount of $6,244.93. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Auburn, New York, authorizes the Comptroller to accept the insurance proceeds and to increase the revenue account A992680, insurance recoveries, and the expenditure account A4540482, vehicle maintenance, in the amount of $6,244.93.
Very good. Any questions or discussion from the council? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Counselor Diego?
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Calarco? Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
We have two appointment resolutions this evening for the Civil Service Commission. The first is appointment resolution number 52 of 2026, reappointing a member of the Civil Service Commission. This will be for Mr. John Hardy. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Cuddy, second by Councilor Clarko.
Appointment Resolution 52, whereas John C. Hardy of Chapman Avenue, Auburn, New York, was first appointed as a Civil Service Commissioner of the City of Auburn on May 22nd, 2008, reappointed on June 1st, 2014, and reappointed on June 4th, 2020. And whereas Mr. Hardy currently serves as the city as chairperson of the Civil Service Commission, and whereas at the recommendation of Mayor Genatino, the Auburn City Council, by majority vote of this resolution, shall reappoint Mr. Hardy to another 6-year term of service as Commissioner for the City of Auburn Civil Service Commission. Now therefore be it resolved that John C. Hardy of Chapman Avenue, Auburn, New York, is hereby reappointed as a Civil Service Commissioner of the City of Auburn effective June 4th, 2026, for a term of 6 years, terminating June 3rd, 2032.
Questions or discussion from the council?
I have one. How many appointments can a person serve?
There's no limit.
There's no limit.
I just want to thank Mr. Hardy for his many years of service to the commission. He's very passionate about it. He advocates for the city of Auburn and for potential employees in the city of Auburn and current employees. He does a great job of getting out in the community to promote tests. He even helps young people fill out applications that don't know how to do it, and I'm glad that he's willing to serve another 6 years. Please call the roll.
Counselor Diego?
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Calarco? Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
Appointment resolution number 53 of 2026, appointing a member of the Civil Service Commission. This will be for Mr. Stephen Rich. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Clarko, seconded by Councilor Cuddy.
Appointment Resolution 53 of 2026, whereas the City of Auburn Civil Service Commission currently has one vacancy due to a resignation of one of 3 commission members, and whereas Stephen Rich, resident of Prospect Street in Auburn, is being recommended by Mayor Genatino for appointment to the commission to fill one of 3 positions on the commission. And whereas the Auburn City Council, by majority vote with this resolution, shall appoint Stephen Rich to a 6-year term of service as Commissioner for the City of Auburn Civil Service Commission. Now therefore be it resolved that Stephen Rich of Prospect Street, Auburn, New York, is hereby appointed as Civil Service Commissioner of the City of Auburn effective June 4th, 2026, for a term of 6 years, terminating on June 3rd, 2032.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions or discussion from the council? Councilor Diego?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Just a quick note on this one. I believe Mr. Hardy's, what's he, Working Family Party? I
No,
believe, or
he's a
is he
registered Democrat.
Democrat. And then you have Ms. Tomaso, that's no party independent. I believe that's what Mr. Rich is.
Correct.
Just a personal recommendation. I would have liked to see, either a Republican, another Democrat, or a conservative put on it. Just because they're having 2 independent no parties on there, they're actually representing the smallest voting base in the whole city. But that's my reason.
Yeah, no, and well taken. My original intent was to recommend a registered Republican for the position.
Yes, sir.
That person had backed out, unfortunately. I asked her to reconsider. She said no. And you are correct, the way the civil service law is written in the city of Auburn, no more than 2 people of the same political party can be appointed to the commission at one time.
Correct.
Mr. Rich will do great. He is a very intelligent person, very passionate about everything that he gets involved in. I'm sorry that the first person didn't work out, because I think she would have done a great job. So.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Any other discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Counselor Diego?
No.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Calarco? Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
Appointment Resolution Number 54 of 2026, appointing a city representative to the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council and Watershed Inspection Committee. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Clarko, seconded by Counselor Cuddy.
Appointment Resolution 54. Whereas the agreement that established the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council between the City of Auburn, the Town of Owasco, Cuyahoga County, and the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council requires that one director to the Board of Directors of the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council shall be a representative of the City of Auburn and shall also serve as the city's representative to the Owasco Lake Watershed Inspection Committee. And whereas Jenny Kent, residing on East Genesee Street and a former member of City Council, was appointed as the City of Auburn representative in 2022, and it is necessary that the Auburn City Council reappoint her to the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council Board of Directors, and that she shall also serve as the city's representative to the Watershed Inspection Committee. And whereas with a majority vote of this resolution, the Auburn City Council is desirous of appointing Jenny Kent as the City of Auburn's representative to serve as a director of the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council and the city's representative to the Watershed Inspection Committee. Now therefore be it resolved, the Auburn City Council does hereby appoint Jenny Kent, resident of East Genesee Street, to serve as the City of Auburn representative of the Board of Directors of the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council and the Watershed Inspection Committee, and said appointment shall take effect immediately and last through December 31st, 2029.
Good. Question or discussion from the council? I just want to say I'm happy that Ms. Kent has agreed to be reappointed. She's, as noted in the resolution, she's been on the committee for 4 years. Works very closely with Mr. Jensen. She also works very closely with the towns, and that was one of the goals of the Watershed Management Council, was to build consensus throughout the watershed. And she's very good at reaching out and building those bridges, and I think it's been very effective. With that, please call the roll.
Counselor Diego?
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Calarco? Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
Appointment Resolution Number 55 of 2026, reappointing a member to the Board of Assessment Review. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Diego, seconded by Counselor Clarko.
Appointment Resolution 55 of 2026, whereas New York State law requires the City of Auburn maintain an assessment review board by which members are appointed by the mayor with confirmation of City Council, and whereas Ms. Colleen LaCastro has served for 1 term as a member of the Board of Assessment Review, and it is his recommendation of the mayor that Ms. LaCastro be reappointed as a member of the board for a new term of 5 years. Now therefore be it resolved, the Auburn City Council does hereby reappoint Colleen LaCastro of Lynn Avenue to be a member of the Board of Assessment Review for a term of 5 years commencing immediately.
Questions or discussion from the council? Again, I'd like to acknowledge Ms. LaCastro for her prior service and for agreeing to accept another appointment. Please call the roll.
Counselor Diego?
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Calarco? Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
Grant Acceptance Resolution Number 56 of 2026, authorizing grant funding from the U.S. Tennis Association. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Cuddy, second by Counselor Diego.
Grant Acceptance Resolution 56, whereas City of Auburn owns and operates several city parks which provide quality recreational opportunities to persons of all ages, and whereas several of our parks include tennis courts for youth and adult recreation. Whereas the Auburn community has a long tradition of the sport of tennis being offered in our city parks, and whereas the United States Tennis Association offered a grant program to promote the sport of tennis named Growing Tennis Together Grant, and the city of Auburn submitted an application for this grant to support summer tennis in our community as part of the Summer Recreation for Children program. And whereas the city has been notified that it has been awarded the Growing Tennis Together grant in the amount of $1,800 from the United States Tennis Association Eastern Regional Council. Now therefore, excuse me, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Auburn that the mayor, on behalf of the city, is hereby authorized and directed to accept these grant funds in the amount not to exceed $1,800 for summer tennis programming. Be it further resolved, the comptroller is authorized to accept the funds into the account number A992705REC to be used for summer tennis programming in our city parks.
Questions or discussion from the council? Councilor Cuddy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to just thank Mr. Brian Rhodes from DPW. This has been going on, I believe, this will be our 4th or 5th year that we've received grant funding from the USTA. And again, it's able to provide high-quality educational experiences, and over time it's evolved. Now it is part of the summer rec program, and we do have Jordan Sadowitz, who is a USTA professional, teaching our youth in Auburn the basics of tennis. That is the main program. We call it the Auburn Tennis Camp, and that is happens during our summer rec program. Some of this also funds the Tennis Under the Lights, and we have a facilitator teacher in the evenings, and Ryan Statuchak has done that in the evenings at Casey Park. So I'd like to thank the USTA Eastern for continuing to fund these programs in Auburn, and again, I'd like to thank Mr. Brian Rhodes from DPW for working on the grant this year. So,
Very good. Any questions, discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilor Diego.
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy.
yes.
Councilor Calarco. Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
We do have a tabled resolution that we're bringing back to the floor this evening. Council Resolution Number 45 of 2026, authorizing the designation of the City of Auburn responsible local official and New York State Department of Transportation Equitable Business Opportunities Systems Administrator. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Calarco, seconded by Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Council Resolution 45 of 2026, whereas the Auburn City Council desires to participate in federally funded transportation projects administered through the New York State Department of Transportation. And whereas New York State DOT requires the designation of a responsible local official and equitable business opportunities administrator to oversee and administer locally administered federal aid projects on behalf of the city. And whereas the Auburn City Council finds it to be in the best interest of the city to designate an official to act as the RLO and EBO administrator for such projects. Now therefore be it resolved, the Auburn City Council hereby designates the City of Auburn Mayor James N. Genatino Jr. as RLO for all locally administered federal aid projects undertaken by the city in cooperation with New York State DOT. Be it further resolved, the Auburn City Council hereby designates the city engineer, Seth N. Jensen, and Assistant Civil Engineer, Scott McIntyre of the Auburn Department of Engineering Services, and the Director of Capital Projects and Grants, Christina Selvik, as the EBO administrators for all locally administered federal aid projects undertaken by the city in cooperation with New York State DOT. Be it further resolved, the RLO and EBO administrators are authorized to serve as the primary point of contact for New York State DOT Regional Local Project Liaison and have access to EBO as the system administrator for the City of Auburn.
Any questions or discussion from the council? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilor Diego?
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy.
Yes.
Counselor Calarco.
Aye.
Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
All right. Before we move on to local law number 1, I want to turn it over to Ms. Haynes and Ms. Leeson. We're going to take some time to publicly cover some of the things that were discussed between them, myself, and Councilor Diego this week, and answer any further questions and allow some additional input from council, and then we'll bring local law number 1 to the floor. Ms. Leeson, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start out. Again, wanted to just say thank you to department heads and the city council for your input and assistance all through this budget process. We wanted to continue the conversation from last week, provide some additional information and explanation, also provide follow-up from the meetings that we had this week with Mayor Genatino, Councilor Diego, and Councilor Cuddy. Thanks to all of you for spending time with us. And also look for direction from the council on the 3 items that we discussed last week, crossing guards, Casey Park Pool, and the 2 firefighter positions. So I'll ask Ms. Leeson to take us through this. I'll be jumping in here and there as we go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on the budget this evening. Just want to reiterate, I appreciate everybody taking the time this week to go through things and discuss where we are. We wanted to just provide at the beginning a little bit of an update as far as the overall budget picture by fund. I think it's important to note that many of these budgets have been reduced throughout this budget process, even in comparison to our previous year. It's our goal to try to find a way to get to a sustainable budget for our community members, as well as continue to be able to provide the services we all depend on. That being said, the transfer that's listed on here is moving Casey and Falcon Park into the separate recreation fund. Even in doing that, you know, we still resulted in a net reduction in the general fund budget, keeping in mind that we did have, you know, salary increases and that kind of thing. However, not all departments have settled contracts, so that does have an impact. But we did have, you know, salary increases in there for others. Landfill fund is down 4%. Power utility, that's a little bit, that fund operates a little bit differently, I guess I would like to say. So that reduction in expense, the goal was for last year to be able to generate enough of a profit where power utility fund could start to pay the general fund back. That did not happen, so we are not budgeting any transfer from power utility to the general fund for this coming year. That's essentially the difference there. I do want to note that I did meet with Mr. Jensen today. We reviewed revenue estimates. We're going to recommend dropping those by, I think in total, like 35,000. We took a 3-year average of revenues and dropped those budgets. Water fund is down about 4% overall budget. The sewer fund does have an increase in its budget. A lot of this really, I think, is primarily on the debt side. We had 1 year of no debt payments as we transitioned into this new wastewater project. So that's really the biggest change there. And then obviously moving recreation into its own fund. We wanted to talk a little bit about the data that's been provided to date. So in our report to council, we provided a packet that included a recommended budget report. We compared the fiscal year 25-26 budget that was approved, fiscal year 25-26 budget actual spent to date, and the amount of the request for 26-27. The 25-26 actual spent to date, that number did not provide a good explanation of timing of payments for some accounts. We do definitely have some very seasonal accounts in there. It also did not include encumbered funds. The way that our accounting system handles encumbrances. Actuals include actual payments, cash payments out the door. Encumbrances would be things that are in purchase order form, so essentially funds committed to purchase. That is tracked completely separate, but it is a commitment to purchase. This made several lines appear less than what will actually be spent by the end of the fiscal year. So we're hoping to provide a little bit of an explanation throughout this presentation. 25-26 actual data related to some revenues, as well as contractual expenses, include revenues and charges to date, but I guess what I would say is that over time, like for our accounting process, we will still be receiving bills through August of 26 that will date back to June, and will have to be charged back to those budgets. As I mentioned, no encumbrances in that report, so that really does have a big impact on the amount of the budget that's actually been used. Again, that kind of, so the encumbrance happens, and then when we get the bill and we pay it, the encumbrance is relieved, and that is using up the expenditure budget. In addition, we've been under a spending freeze since November 17th, 2025. What I would say is our purchasing office has put a lot of scrutiny on every single purchase. Our city manager is putting a lot of scrutiny on every single purchase, and I've been accused of using the no button a little too often. So I think that, you know, we have postponed a lot of purchases. We're only doing mandatory trainings. We're really trying to preserve as much of our budget as we can to allow for things that were unpredictable, and we, you know, things like retirement that came in over budget. We wanted to kind of try to offset that through our spending, and so we've really been trying not to spend unless it's absolutely critical. In addition to the general fund, we also provided reporting on our other funds, which would be recreation, refuse collection, power utility, water, and sewer. Just a note that each of these funds is essentially its own business. It's a self-sufficient entity. Revenues must equal expenses in those other funds. And although water, sewer, and landfill can reimburse the general fund for administrative support, other than that, they are standalone entities and cannot be used to reduce the tax levy. So any reductions in those budgets would only reduce the costs in that budget and could generate potentially some drop to fund balance, but it wouldn't reduce the tax levy. I wanted to give a couple of examples. So as far as timing of payments, one of the accounts we talked about was City Court. The City of Auburn leases space from Cayuga County for its City Court. The way that expense works is the county bills us on a quarterly basis for rent. As of today, we have not received an invoice yet for the quarter ending 3/31/26. So we have only spent 2 quarters to date, but before the close of the fiscal year, I will have to recognize a full year's worth of expense. And so this budget will be fully expended. This is very similar to like our utilities budgets. We are currently, actually just this week, we paid the March utility bills. So there's at least a 2-month lag in our billing.
Ms. Leeson, why does it take so long to get billed by NYSEG?
So our utility process, and that's one of the presentations that we're hoping to bring forward once we conclude the budget process, with the generation of power from our hydro facilities, we are eligible for remote net metering credits. So the billing is complicated. We purchase supply outside of NYSEG. And that's offset by the remote net metering credits, and so the billing is pretty complicated for all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Another example would be things that are seasonal. So parks operating supplies, we typically spend money out of that account in, July, August, September. Over the winter months, we're not really spending much out of that account. And then as we get into spring, spending starts to increase again. To date, the department has expended approximately 40% of this budget. On the May 28th budget report to council, we had only expended 28% of this budget. We have another 40% of the budget that's encumbered. So as of today, 80% of that budget has been expended. In our 26-27 budget request, we did reduce the budget. We are anticipating that we would spend $46,000 this year. We have budgeted $49,000, as we do anticipate some inflationary costs on some of the items that are used out of this budget, but we have reduced overall budget. With regard to the spending freeze, a good example of this is in the fire department. The fire department has budgeted for turnout gear. In 25-26, they budgeted $20,000. The goal of budgeting for turnout gear was to be able to establish kind of a rotation on that. And so we were going to try to buy some gear each year. Due to the spending freeze, we did not purchase that turnout gear. It was in the original budget request again for 26-27. That was cut. Obviously, this makes me a little bit nervous because in the long range, we are going to have to replace turnout gear. And so what ends up happening is it may end up being a bigger purchase all at once rather than a small amount each year. So this budget has been cut. The department buys smoke detectors, so that's in the equipment line. And citywide, we've changed from having a carpet service for the runners. We purchased carpets at a much reduced cost, and staff just cleans those carpets.
Ms. Leeson, do you know the cost to replace all the turnout gear?
I'm going to have to phone a friend for that. Do you know, Chief, cost of turnout?
What's that, I'm sorry?
The turnout gear, if we were to buy all new.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If we were to purchase all the turnout gear once for all the members of the fire department, you're looking at around $300,000.
300. Very good, thank you. Ms. Selvig, do you know and if you don't, that's fine, because I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. Do you know if Crest grants would cover turnout gear? All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you. With regard to encumbered funds or open purchase orders, in our special events line, again, this is very seasonal, this budget. We would spend in July and August as we have some of our events in our local parks. We also spend in the spring as we do Memorial Day Parade and start our concerts back up again. There's $11,486 in encumbered funds or in open purchase orders to pay for costs related to the parade, movie nights, and concerts, leaving available budget at $2,778. The total spend in this account for 24-25 was $22,446.50. Again, that department is consistently trying to control the cost, but also trying to get sponsorships for these special events. I can recall bringing my own kids to movie nights and things like that, so I think it's important to have that for our community. But definitely seasonal, and definitely this account was affected by open purchase orders as we approached the Memorial Day Parade and things like that. As far as the revenue budget, we really tried to keep, this was probably one of the biggest focus areas for me as we developed this budget for this year. Really wanted to create a revenue budget that we could meet or exceed. As we mentioned, we were about $1.2 million short when we looked at projections in January. So we added the $1.2 million increase in state aid, but with the reductions in our other revenue accounts, that was pretty much eaten up. So we've pretty much washed that away. We've worked hard to kind of review. It was a collaborative effort. I think there were 5 of us that looked at revenue budgets and analyzed and tried to make sure it was reasonable. I feel like we've done that. There's no crystal ball. I never know what's going to happen. It's like predicting the weather, but we really did try to drop those budgets to make it attainable. An example of that would be a certificate of occupancy inspections. We've reduced that budget by $300,000. There was a period where we did have a significant amount of revenue one year in this budget line. We have not hit that number in a couple of years. So we've dropped that budget to $150,000. As of June 3rd, we were at $112,000 of revenue in that account. In looking at June of 25, we took in about $30,000 in that month, which is bringing me to 142. Why budget 150? We are going to work with the code enforcement office to see if we can supplement their staff and help them out to get caught up on the timing of their inspections. We really need to work towards that. So the goal is to hit 150 next year. I think we're pretty close. So hoping to do that. Just one other note there, part of this revenue happens very early in the year. So people who haven't paid those charges, that gets levied on their tax bill. I did a comparison of what's going to get levied on this year's taxes versus what was levied on last year's taxes, just to see if we would start off the year as strong as we did last year. It's a slight increase over last year, so I feel like we're going to be pretty consistent.
On revenues, can you talk a little bit about your strategy in budgeting for sales tax?
So for sales tax, we're projecting about 5% over budget this year. I budgeted 1% increase. I don't feel comfortable budgeting a 5% increase, only because, there's a lot of people struggling right now. And, when I look at food prices, like my own grocery bill has gone up so much, that reduces discretionary income. And so I'm concerned about that. So we did a 1% increase. I mean, there's certain things you're going to buy because you have to buy them. We seem to be, like when you look at county sales tax, the city of Auburn has been stronger than other areas of the county as far as growth. But I do want to be conservative, so we did 1%.
How about occupancy tax?
So occupancy tax, Mr. Mason helped me do some research. We foiled, the county collects 5% occupancy tax, the city collects the same 5%. So we got information from Cuga County about how much in a full calendar year or a full fiscal year of collections would be. This was our first year of the program. We kind of got started a little late. So our revenue's been low this year. Based on what we should collect in a full year, that's how we developed that budget. I did not include any revenue for any of like the smaller entities. It was just like the major hotels. So anything we got from like an Airbnb or a VRBO or any of the smaller rentals would be in excess of what we budgeted.
And if I remember correctly, presently you lump cannabis tax in with sales tax. We talked about breaking that out.
We are going to do that.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep. So at last week's meeting, we spoke about crossing guards, the Casey Park pool, and then the 2 currently filled full-time positions that are proposed to be eliminated out of Auburn Fire. I wanted to talk about some potential solutions for those issues. In conversation this week, we've reviewed different areas that crossing guards serve, trying to identify the highest need areas. So as we spoke about last week, there's 5 intersections that have 4 lanes. Those are on our priority list, as well as Genesee Street in front of Genesee Elementary, one at the 4-way stop on Franklin Street and North Seward, and one on Metcalf Drive in front of Seward Elementary. That would be 8 crossing guards. The total cost of that is $99,639. We had good news this week as far as our liability insurance. Staff has spent a lot of time with our carrier reviewing our coverage, making sure that we have proper coverage on all of our assets, but not, insuring things at too high of a level, working with our agent to determine what the right levels are. The initial quote based on the estimate was an 11% increase. The final policy came in with a 7.9% increase. That savings is $82,000. We're going to propose using that to fund the crossing guards. In addition, we're recommending a reduction to the services line and fuel line in the parking garage budget. This would be a reduction to the number of kiosks across the city. We would still retain some, but would reduce the total number. And that would get us to coverage for the crossing guards. Obviously, we would need council direction on that.
Would council like to talk about that now, or do you want to get through the rest?
I would prefer to get through the rest.
Okay.
Everybody's okay with that?
Sounds good.
As far as Casey Park Pool, we spoke last week about we would need an additional $23,000 from the general fund to the enterprise fund to fund the remaining expenses related to the pool. Obviously, generous donation from Wegmans and the YMCA to get us there. Our recommendation at this time, myself and purchasing agent Ms. Adams worked with our accounting software vendor to try to negotiate a better price on our software renewal. They came back with a flat rate, so they didn't increase our costs. So that's a $5,000 reduction in the general fund. And then recommending reducing overtime in a couple departments by a total of $10,000, and then reducing a couple of lines in the special events, which would be offset by sponsorships that have already been committed. That would get us to cover Casey Park Pool. And then adding fire staffing, again, this was $228,340. We're recommending that come out of the $2 million from the additional funding from state aid. Thank you, Nate. And that's all I have.
Ms. Haynes, do you have anything you want to add before we jump into discussion?
No, just looking forward to the conversation. We have department heads here if there are any questions that are department specific, and Mary Beth and I obviously will assist.
I just have before we get into discussion and questions, just a couple other points from our meetings that I just wanted to touch on. If I remember correctly, you said approximately 90% overall budgets for 2025, 2026 have been expended.
Mm-hmm.
And there are open POs. Can you explain what that process is and why we keep POs open?
Sure. So the way I always explain to people about purchase orders is that when council adopts a budget, they're authorizing an amount of spending on a particular function throughout the city. Department heads manage those budgets. So if they identify a cost that they want to spend those funds on, they would enter a requisition to purchase. That approval process goes through the department head. It goes through the director of purchasing and many times through the city manager, and basically authorizes them to spend those dollars with a particular vendor. It's to ensure that we're in compliance with New York State purchasing law as well as the city's procurement policy. Those funds basically obligate out of the budget. So once you have an established purchase order, those funds are obligated out of the budget and reduce available funds. When the bill is paid, that purchase order is liquidated and the expense hits the actual account. And it's basically a commitment, so the vendor knows that we're committed to spend with them. It's basically our guarantee that we're going to make good on the bill.
And my understanding of the PO process is it's really for functionality, that if vehicle breaks down and somebody has to go to an auto parts store to buy parts, the PO is open, you can buy those parts, but everything has to be approved. But to open a PO every time a purchase had to be made would not be conducive to getting work done in a timely manner.
So there's really a couple of different ways, I guess, that you could do POs. So there is, like, if, let's say, you'd accepted insurance proceeds tonight, so let's say that we're expending those funds. Many times it's a specific one-time use PO. So we've, like with that situation, they would get quotes, and then whoever the low bidder was, they would issue a PO for that exact amount. But there's also what's called a blanket PO. So, you know, if Public Works, they would, in theory, open a blanket PO, say with Home Depot, so that if they need to go buy screws or fence posts or whatever, they've got a blanket. It's limited, so the description on the blanket PO must match with whatever they spend it on. So you can't just go open a blanket PO at Home Depot and say, I'm going to buy fence posts, and then go buy a new lawnmower. That doesn't work. That'll get denied. So you have to follow within the purpose of the PO.
Many years ago, more years than I care to mention anymore, I was in the military, and at the end of the fiscal year, there was always a mad scramble to spend whatever money was remaining, because if they didn't spend it, they didn't get it allocated to them the next year. I just want to talk a little bit about how we operate here, and that's
Sure.
not how things happen here.
That is not how things happen. So every single month, there's a review by our accounts payable area of open POs. They'll go back to department heads. If they're seeing a PO that's open that they feel like should be closed, they'll go back to the department head and say, you know, I feel like this could be closed. I think, you know, you've used it, or we're not going to need it anymore. They really watch that. I also think that as we get closer to year end, there's additional scrutiny on that. It's really not, at this point, we're really trying, as all of the department heads know, that my main focus and the focus of the finance office and the city manager is to really try to get to a place where we can return money at the end of the year to the fund balance, because we know the situation that we're in. So we're consistently saying, okay, if we're not going to spend this PO, let's close it. So we talk to departments about, have you purchased against this PO? Do you have more invoices coming in? Can we reduce it? Can we close it? That kind of thing. So we're constantly doing that. Unfortunately, we have to keep them open for a period of time, because, you know, bills will come in, and so that's why we have the conversation. But we're really trying to control cost here. There's a lot more no's than yeses at this point.
So you said we're 90% expended. Despite everything, I'm still an optimist. Say we end at 95%. What happens with the 5% of remaining funds from 25-26?
That will go into our fund balance.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Mhm.
And those were just things that we talked about in the meeting,
Yep.
so I just wanted to touch on those. Now I want to open it up to council. Councilor Cuddy?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Giantino. And I'd like to thank the comptroller and city manager for meeting with me this week. Last week, my colleague, Councilor Diego, brought up some very concerning numbers. And, you know, this is after the staff had taken direction to make significant cuts in each department, and also consider a property tax increase. And so my concern was those numbers needed to be addressed. And, you know, I felt like I was very worried that, you know, we might have missed something, and but I also at the same time wanted to give staff the time to address those, and the things that I found out in our meeting this week and here tonight is that you know, as was stated, the open POs, well, at the time that Councilor Diego was, his documents did not have that information on there. So to be fair to Councilor Diego, his numbers were accurate, but they didn't reflect the real time elements of the budget. So you know, meeting this week and going over that, I felt much better about where we are, and I feel that the staff has you know, addressed these issues. The other thing that you had mentioned earlier was you know, one of the other reasons why the numbers or the percentage of the expenditures were so vast in percentage was because of the spending freeze. And I think that, you know, if you're, you know, I saw one that was only had like $2,000 out of $14,000 expended. So obviously there's going to be a huge percentage difference in those kinds of numbers with the fact that we had that spending freeze. So I feel much better that, you know, we have had to make tough choices. And what has happened is that the staff has come to us with, I guess, reasons for some of those discrepancies. And I feel that, you know, I'm definitely more confident in moving forward with this budget and what was suggested. But I do, you know, credit my colleague, Councilor Diego, for really spending the time and, you know, looking at those. But I do think what might help in the future, and this is what we have done in the past, is that I know Councilor, Mayor Giannatino remembers, we used to have budget bar charts, weekly bar charts of where we are in the current budget, and with respect to last year's budget, I feel that that would be helpful so that we have, you know, accurate, as close to a real-time sense of where we are with last year's budget and this year's budget, so that we can, you know, throughout the year be aware of where we are. Sure. And I know that is stopped because, you know, it was stopped, but I do think there's value now in bringing that back.
Can I piggyback on that real quick?
Yes, okay.
So the monthly bar graphs stopped, but instead we did the quarterly detailed budget presentations. One thing that Councilor Diego, myself, City Manager Haynes, and Ms. Leeson talked about was perhaps monthly sitting down and looking at the detailed rather than quarterly. I don't know if the bar graphs give us the detail, and that's kind of why we got away from those and went to the detailed quarterly ones. But with prices rising the way they're rising, you know, we talked about maybe it makes sense to sit down monthly and go through those detailed numbers. So I just wanted to let you know that was part of our conversation.
I was thinking, like, when I met with the manager and the comptroller, I was saying, like, well, maybe we can do that just so that but again, I think that's a nice compromise, monthly instead of quarterly. It's not as frequent as a weekly one, but at the same time, it gives us a better sense of where we are. But I do feel that, you know, that it's important, as bad as this budget cycle felt, I do have a lot of confidence in that our staff is doing an excellent job. I drive through the city every day. You know, the streets are teeming with activity. Downtown is looking great. We have, you know, we have our workers throughout the city preparing for our summer events. And I just want to say, sometimes in these council meetings, there's so much doom and gloom, but our workers get the work done, and they do a great job. And, you know, this year is a tough year. They know it, they feel it, and I just know that we're going to be very conservative now so that we can continue to do what we do best, which is serve the people of Auburn.
All set?
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson?
Last week, I made a comment after Councilor Diego talked about going through the line items of the different departments, and you said there were 1,500 different line items. I want to first state that I have never seen a line item per department. I've never seen that. I've been on this city council 2+ years now, so I've never seen that. What I've seen is those kind of reports that will come out every quarter, but it doesn't state that $5,000 for toilet paper and we didn't spend $5,000 on toilet paper. I also want to say is I don't know if that is our responsibility or was our responsibility in the past. I think it is now. I also said after Councilor Diego spoke that I appreciated him speaking about things that I could clearly wrap my head around, and it wasn't spoken in such a macro kind of sense, because I do feel at times that some of the leadership will come up there and speak kind of more like it was in the cloud, and I'm sitting here thinking I'm not quite sure what that means. I also want to say that I said last week that leadership should be doing leadership things, and I'm going to stick by that. What I know for certain is that there are a number of departments, specifically in this building, that are losing people. Those people are losing their jobs. Not every other department in the city are losing people. So I know that departments in this building have worked very differently than other departments, and I don't feel like we have looked at other departments and given the same scrutiny that we have given departments specifically in this building. And if I need to be clear about that, I can be much clearer about that. I think that it is important, and I just want to piggyback something you said. You said that there are open POs, and they have to be open because there's a certain amount of time that, you know, POs and receipts could come in. But there's been more no's than yes. And as we get to the end of the budget year, that we are far more scrutinized. We're scrutinizing that much more closer. I wonder, what does that scrutiny look like, and how are we intensifying it? And there was a gentleman that spoke about what we've done in the past is what we can't do in the future. I would like to see that same scrutiny that we intensify at the end of the year be scrutinized that way the entire year, because what we also know is that this year is not going to be the only year that is going to look like this. Next year is going to be the same way. The following year is going to be the same way. I think us as city councilors, as the mayor, I think there needs to be a little more in the weeds than there has been probably the last however long there's been. But I don't think that we have the luxury of not being a part of, even if we're notified that there's going to be money moved from a certain line item because we're going to put it over here. Even if we're told that that is happening, that's better than just getting to a presentation about a budget and then where Counselor Diego may come up, or Counselor Cuddy, or Counselor Calarco will come and say, well, I thought that this amount of money was in another line item. I think that that's the level of look that we need to have. And I don't think that it's anything that should be out of the ordinary for us to ask department heads to do that. And either you're going to lead or you're not. At the end of the day, our budget isn't as big as the school district budget. They're hard decisions, but for us not to see a line item budget is just extraordinary to me. To be very transparent in what I'm thinking, and that is exactly what I'm thinking. I want to reiterate again before I hush, I have never seen a line item budget. I will recall the last budget presentation was in a PowerPoint, and it was very thoughts about specific budget items were actually captured and not line itemed out. So it was, we're going to cut this and we're going to cut that, but it wasn't lined item out. So as I sit here, I get the generalized sense of what the budget is, but not that detailed look.
Counselor, we can for sure work with the council to see what kind of information you would like to see and how often. We've talked about monthly. I mean, we can do monthly budget reports where you can see the expenditures out of every single line in every department. We could do that. So it's up to you as to how detailed we want to get. We're happy to provide you whatever level of detail at whatever frequency.
I don't think that it would require, even if we did that for 3 months, so that we can look at a trajectory that things might be going. So also we can look at the ways in which our leaders are thinking, because looking at a budget item allows us to, looking at a budget that's detailed like that, allows us to see where folks are fixated on, where their priorities are, if we've actually, maybe we've given too much padding to a certain line item because it didn't require a 40% increase because we were thinking about what inflation would look like. It would give us a pattern of behavior to look at. So if we started out even with 3 months of that and then determine after 3 months of looking at the line item budgets that were presented to us to say, I think we have enough information, or that we can see where our leaders, our department heads, I should say, are moving forward in their decision making, that it might be just 3 months, or it might be 6 months, or it might be 9 months. I'm just putting that time frame out there, but I would like to see where money is being transferred from, and I kind of hear that, but where money is being transferred from and moved to, because next year a budget conversation is going to be just like this, if not more damning.
So I'll speak to just a couple of things. So level of scrutiny. On July 1st last year, so the beginning of our fiscal year, we have a process where the city manager is involved in approving requisitions that turn into purchase orders. The amount that the city manager was involved and those approvals was $1,000 at that time. We reduced that to $500. So I've been involved in approvals for all purchase orders at that level. In addition, I've asked either the department head or the purchasing staff to, in addition to the procurement work that they've done with the finance department, to send me an email to say, I'm entering a requisition for this is the reason, and we need this because this is critical to, this particular piece of our operation. So we've been doing that for this whole fiscal year. Budget transfers, I believe we just implemented a new budget transfer policy, which reduces the amount that departments do on their own and requires us to come to the council for anything over $10,000.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So the council will be more involved in those budget transfers as well going forward.
It also, just really quick, it also does not allow, you can't transfer money like between a salaries line and a contractual line. It has to be within the same function. You can't transfer outside of that.
Also, Mary Beth and I have been meeting monthly with each department and whatever staff they wanted to bring with them to review expenditures, monthly expenditures and budgets. So we've been trying to keep an eye on those as well. So, but at whatever level the council would like to review that information, we're happy to provide.
Thank you.
Councilor Clarko.
To just address the overall workings of how this went, I think there are things we need to think about next year and how we want to approach that, but we need to stay focused right now on this budget. But that being said, I do think the idea of a monthly breakdown would be good instead of those bar charts. I would appreciate that. As far as this budget, I just want to state, as I did last week, I would like to see crossing guards and the pool open. I think they are tremendously valuable to our community. I do have one question about the staffing for the fire department. What would be, given the contract that's in place, what could be the implication if we didn't reinstate those two positions?
We are in violation of their contract with the
So
current staffing.
financially, it's related to overtime, so additional overtime
Mhm.
costs.
Do we have an idea of what that overtime could be
For those two,
if that was to happen?
I don't know. Chief, I don't know if you can speak to that. That's hard to say because it's on the daily related to when they hit those minimum numbers.
Mhm. I mean, I would anticipate that in this fiscal year, we're going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 500,000 in overtime costs.
If we didn't fill those.
If we didn't fill those, it's going, well, no, this year, that's what we're going to spend for 25, 26. As you reduce staffing, that number just goes up.
And as you know, Councilor, we're in the process of negotiating a successor agreement with IANFF local. The total number of firefighters, there's an interplay, as you know, between the total number of firefighters and the minimum shift staffing. So I'm getting so close to get doing some math, or that sort of thing, but it's very difficult to put a number on that because of that particular interplay, which as of right now is unknown.
Right. I understand, that's why I wanted to ask the question, because we don't know how that's going to turn around at this point, so I wanted to have all the information when making that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Diego?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just want to address a couple things. Obviously, we had the meeting. It's not, for me, it's not, doom and gloom. It's, the numbers don't lie. I said it last week, I'm going to say it again. One thing I want to touch on real quick is, if you looked at the presentation I made last week, I didn't touch anything that had anything to do with gas or electric of any of that. I know we're talking about NYSEG. I looked at two other utility lines. One was for $1,948 and one was $750. So it's got nothing to do with NYSEG. I just wanted to make that clear because maybe I'll just put it bluntly. The bottom line is on this last week, whether anybody wants to say it or not, and we spoke about this in the meeting, and I told you I would say this out here. And once again, it's not a personal thing against anybody. When I ask for a line item budget to that date, and I'm told it's up to date as of 5/22, I assume that's accurate. But then when we go back through it after I make my presentation and they're telling me that some of these were from February, March, there was no purchase orders included at all. So obviously I have no way of knowing what was included, what wasn't included. I'm just going to throw the numbers out there just for the sake of talking about what I spoke last week, and stop me if it's wrong, Mary Beth, please. When I went through the general fund, the difference between the numbers that were provided to me and that you provided this past week when we met was $71,426.
Correct.
The difference in the purchase orders that I didn't receive any of was $137,603.46. You're at $209,000. You can't expect me to give you an accurate figure when the figures you give me are $209,000 off. We could go through every one of them. Landfill, same thing, $118,957 difference between the number I was provided and the number that I was provided this past week for the meeting. Open purchase orders, same thing, $123,190, $242,000 difference. You're not going to get an accurate number from me when it's almost $250,000 off where it should be. Power utility, that wasn't bad at all, $15,809, still not accurate. Water fund, you know, difference, $10,438 difference from the two numbers I got. $102,164 in purchase orders, $113,000 difference from the numbers I was provided. Sewer fund, same thing, come out to $226,276.04, $805,865. That's the problem I had with this whole process. If you're telling me this is exactly as of that date, which is exactly what I was said and told, that I probably the hardest part for me about it is it's not about saving face or any nonsense like that. It's about, we have to have the numbers that are accurate if we're going to do the work. And, you know, obviously it happens, I guess, you know, it didn't update the system, whatever we want to say happened. But when I went back through the numbers that you guys provided the other day in our meeting, it still shows, and this is my number off of the bottom number that you presented when you talk about how much savings if we went 25% over. I did 20% on my chart. I did 25% for the revenue. It still shows $332,316 savings. And that's coming off what your number is, if I'm reading this correctly.
So the revenue actually is the other direction. However, I guess what I would say is like things like city court, I can't just take the 25%. We could, but we're going to be short the rent budget, right?
I'm saying the numbers that you took my numbers and you said actual 25% over, and it come down, the total on the outside under the savings came out to, yours was $316,491. I added $15,800 because I went 20% and 25%. What I'm saying is there's still money saved here regardless if the numbers were off by $800,000 or there weren't, which leads to the thing that we just spoke about a minute ago, the two firemen. If my calculations are correct off of yours, that money's already covered. Those two jobs are covered. The pool is already covered. I know you spoke on revenue, and we had a strong conversation on that. You said we're going to hit, and we may be even better. I'm going to let that go, and exactly, and I hope you're 200% right.
Me too.
And I'm sure you probably will be. You know, I can look past the revenue part. Once again, if the numbers aren't correct, I'm not going to be able to do anything with this. But if there's still $300,000+ savings going off of 20% more than they spent after I added all the purchase orders, everything in, I mean, the budget ends. Obviously, you're going to have payments, you said, after July 1st, but I'm just using the number you gave me. If that's accurate, I think that covers everything that everybody suggested here tonight, correct?
The problem with that is, like city court, we've only spent $51,000.
Right.
If I only add 20%, we don't have enough to pay our rent bill. So the savings isn't real. I can't do that.
So what does the savings number annotate then?
So I would have to go in, I mean, in my opinion, I feel like we've cut this budget as deep as I can go. We scraped together enough to cover crossing guards and the pool. What I'm afraid of is to continue to cut expenses. We're not going to be able to hit the expense budget, and then we're drawing from fund balance again.
Right.
That's what makes me nervous. So although I could cut to those numbers, I don't know that we can achieve it. We have to be able to achieve it, just like we have to be able to achieve revenue.
So 20% more than the actual total of everything, purchase orders, all that, even if they don't come through, we still use that number. 20% more for every department head in the city isn't enough money.
20% more of what we've spent.
Correct.
As of today, we still have almost 3 months of expenses to record because we have all of June, July, and August will still get bills. So
Yeah, but you said they're included in the purchase
not
orders.
necessarily. not necessarily.
So how do we even do a budget then if this thing has got to be due by July 1st and we're going to be getting bills 2 months after the fact?
That's why it's hard. So ultimately what I'm doing is I'm looking at 24, 25 actuals to see what we've spent in previous years in those months that happen after I'm developing the budget. So if you think back, like I started this budget probably in the beginning of February. At that point, I'm looking at what did we spend through like the end of December and what did we spend from January to June the year before, and trying to project a number and then factoring in inflation. It's a guess, right? I'm trying my best guess to get to a number, but ultimately I have to think about things like, does DPW need different equipment? Did something break and I need to replace it? Or is the gas price going up and I need to factor that in? And, you know, fuel prices are up and that drives supply costs up, and how is that going to affect? And, you know, we get quotes on maintenance contracts and all of those things, and we're trying, you know, I just went back to our software vendor, right? And I've been battling with them for probably a month and finally got the $5,000 discount. We just got the insurance quote on Monday. That was final. We've been going back and forth with them for months on that. So we're trying to negotiate all these prices and we're trying to come to a place. But I can't take an expense today and think that I'm going to add a percentage, because it's not flat, it's not consistent. The billing takes a long time to get here. We're on an accrual basis. I have to think about that. I have to think about it on the revenue side too. So it's challenging.
Do you have a comment on this?
I do.
Okay. Councilor Diego, you all right with him making a comment? Because you have the floor right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my thought is based on years of experience, whether people like the way the city's being run or not like the way the city's being run. I'm proud of my record, so, and I've said that before, but all 12, 13 budgets, the 13th I'm currently in, you don't know until August where things settle. I feel we are at a point where and I said this before and I say it again, like we've never gone above the tax cap and we've never cut this deep on my time in office. We're doing both. And when those numbers last week, when you said there's still that discrepancy, I was perplexed. But the reality is, and I put my faith in the comptroller, CPA, years of municipal experience, you know, her reputation is her work. And I get what you're doing. It's like, if you look at the budget line, you're looking really close. But this is a moving vehicle that is not going to just start and stop on June 30th, June 30th and July 1st. It's like, just from my experience, we don't know until August. But what we're proposing to do, this council, is to set us up in a way where we're not going to be here next year. We're not going to be in this situation next year. That is my belief. I feel that we are staff is doing their best to get to the point where we are not here next year. So my response to the comptroller is that she's absolutely right. We will not know. You can't take this slice and know exactly how it's going to end. I just have faith the numbers are going to come in close. And she was absolutely right. You compare it to last year, you compare it to the year before. It's basically you need to step back and see like both of the years. Who knows how we're gonna? This spending freeze already has yielded some savings. So that's the thing that I want to at least say is like the year's not over yet. I don't think it's going to be as bad as what we were led to believe publicly. I still think that we have time to I still think there's time to basically say that we're not that far off on this budget. That's my thought. But we won't know until after. I see, you know, Councilor Diego, your points are very much, you know, you're looking at the nitty gritty. I see that, you know, the comptroller and the city manager, I have faith in that they're going to make sure that they listen to council, the whole council, and keep spending in check, and also make sure that they're very conservative in their revenues. That is what they've done. That's what I have faith in, and I trust them.
And you can trust them all you want, Councilor Cuddy. It doesn't change the facts that you want to turn this into something that it's not, is exactly what you're doing right now. The bottom line is this has nothing to do with, go ahead and, matter of fact, you know what I'll do? I'd like a copy of every single purchase order with a date on it that comes in after July 1st. So we can see, because you're acting like every bill in the city of Auburn is going to come in August. That's nonsense. I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't care how you want to spin it. The bottom line is whether anybody wants to admit it or not, when you talk about talking public, you get upset about it when there's transparency. And that's about 99% of this city, unfortunately. The bottom line is if somebody hands you numbers that are $804,000 off what they were supposed to be, when you told me face to face those numbers were as of 5/22, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to not talk on it. I'm not supposed to waste. I didn't just waste 150 hours on this line item budget because I had nothing better to do. Everybody sitting here works a full-time job. The bottom line is, you can try to spin this around like Craig Diego said something that wasn't accurate, but it's weird when you take the numbers that were now presented. My numbers were exactly where they were supposed to be. I said we were about $1.2 million over, and after we took all this other $800,000 plus, it was about $330,000. So verbatim what I said is exactly what the numbers read. I understand what you're saying. I understand that you're talking about the 13 years you've been here. Outstanding, never went above the tax cap. I appreciate that. I'm a taxpayer. But the bottom line is when it comes down to it, maybe that shouldn't have been the right move then. We can argue about that all day. It's not worth talking about. Decisions made in the past are going to affect ones coming in the future. Hence why I try to go through this so we can make sure that, like you said, we're not sitting here next year. I'm not stroking every department head in this city. They know what they're supposed to do. They're getting paid a lot of money to do it. But I think a little responsibility in holding people accountable for their job is where it's going to have to start. You've seen it here tonight. Some department heads get upset. You ask them a question and they give you a one-word answer because they got an attitude from 3 or 4 weeks ago. They didn't answer an email since the 27th of April, so I had to ask again tonight, and your answer is yes. That's the problem with this city. Everybody's afraid to hold somebody accountable for their job, starting with the department heads. That's where the issue lies in this budget. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Couple comments. I'm going to ask the clerk to bring up a page on the monitors here.
Should be coming. Mary Beth, is that laptop up?
It just has my.
They were right there. I'll go down to Mary Beth's laptop. Bring it up.
While the clerk's doing this, I do have some comments, and then I know that staff is looking for some direction, some concrete direction on a few items. The goal is not to be here next year. This was a very difficult budget season for everybody involved. It is indicative of what's going on across the state. I know nobody wants to hear that, nobody cares about that, but that's the reality. Councilor Diego sent me a text, and we do this frequently. He sent me a text earlier this week Tompkins County, $9 million deficit. So we're not alone. The only thing we can control is what happens here and how we react to that. And I think the goal of this year was to set us up where we're not going through this again next year. There are going to be several outside factors out of our control. Prices continue to rise rapidly. We can't control that, but we can try to control what our spending is here. Through difficult decisions, through retirements, through not filling vacant positions, hopefully we've right-sized the budget so that we're not back in this situation. Additionally, we're in the process of negotiating in good faith with several of our bargaining units. We continue to try to generate new revenues. We have a number of new businesses slated to open here over the next year that will certainly result in increased sales tax. We have a new hotel that will be opening in the next year and a half or so, which will contribute to our occupancy tax. Are you able to bring that up?
Something's happening with that laptop.
All right. I just want on the record want to say that because there's been some questions about budgets and information that's been shared. You know, our goal is to always be transparent, not only in this building and through the workforce, but with the public. It's one thing that I think the clerk does a very good job with. He has an actual city budget website that has budget documents, detailed budgets, presentations, going all the way back to 2015, 2016. So I just want the public to know that information is there. It's available to everybody. We feel it's important to do that, and we will continue to do that. So with that, I know staff is looking for some solid feedback on crossing guards, Casey Park Pool, and funding for 2 firefighter positions. I want to give council a chance to give feedback on that. Anybody? Councilor Cuddy?
All right. So I'll speak first to the Casey Park Pool. I agree with the comptroller, the city manager, that we can open the pool and provide that for the people. And I would like to see that happen. I know it might put a start date that's a little bit later, but you know, I think it's like 4 weeks, 5 days a week. What was
Yes.
shared? Is that correct?
Yes.
If we could do that, I would like us to move forward with that.
Okay. Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Mary Beth put up one of her slides on her PowerPoint that indicated where the money could come from to have the swimming pool, also 8 crossing guards, and there was also the adding the 2 men positions back in there. I think that demonstrated where that money could come from, so I would definitely support that.
Councilor Clerco, Councilor Diego.
I mean, as I said a few moments ago, I support opening the pool and the crossing guards. And as far as the fire department, I'm very concerned that if we make those cuts, that it will result in significantly higher overtime, and that's a great concern. So if we can avoid that, I would prefer to not have that increase in overtime.
All right, very good. Councilor Diego.
Yeah, speaking on the pool, it was nice to get the money from the YMCA and Wegmans. It says, according to our chart here, we need about $23,000. The only question I'd have to ask about that is where's the money coming from? I mean, it's between, what, $30,000 and $40,000 to fix it. Where's that money going to come from? We're showing what it's going to cost, I'm assuming, for utilities and this and that for the 4 weeks, but we're not accounting for the $30,000 or $40,000 to fix this project.
I have that, or go ahead.
In the general fund at this current time, there's about $50,000 of ARPA money left that needs to be expended by December 31st. It's our recommendation to use that funding to pay the work that needs to be done for the concrete.
So that funding is can be spent on eligible capital projects The pool is eligible because it was used during the pandemic and promoted outdoor recreation and allowed for social distancing. That's a piece of that ARPA funding and some of the requirements to use it that way.
Can it be used for salaries?
I mean, I would say it would be pretty difficult. We would have to justify it based on like a program that was eligible during that funding cycle. So it would be tricky to do that.
Right. The reason I ask is it's obviously, like you said, it'd be great to open the pool. It's hard to tell the 13, 15, 18, 25, whatever the number's going to end up being, people that aren't going to have a job anymore, that we're going to open the pool for 4 weeks, but we're going to take people's jobs from them. That's my only concern. I mean, if we can make it work, I'm good with that. I know there was talk about some of the part-time people, you know, also. It's just another way to look at it as far as financially. It's a tough spin telling, you know, so-and-so, hey, your last day is July 1st, but we're going to
I'm just trying to think about the positions and if any
Right.
of it would qualify.
Right.
I would have to do some digging with Christina.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about crossing guards?
Personally, I mean, we definitely need them at those busy intersections. The number, I'm not sure. I've seen everything from 6 to 8 to 10 to 11. There's only 13 total as it is. We definitely need them, you know, for the safety of the kids. I think the way to go would be filling a certain amount of them, being that I think that's what Corporation Council had said when the school didn't want to help us pay for them last time when we were trying to get funding. They kind of skirted around it a little bit, but if you're adding to it, so if you come in with 6 or 8 or 9, whatever the number we decide on, now they can actually fund them if they choose to. I think that's what Mr. Garland had said. I wouldn't support putting all 13 of them in there right now, knowing that we could probably get some funding from the school as well. Busy intersections, you got to do it regardless, you know. I mean, I just don't know what the number should be. 6 or 7 is probably the minimum.
Yeah, and I think what staff is recommending or requesting at this time is the 8. So, and then on the firefighter positions.
Firefighter, that's yeah, we spoke out a bunch of times. I'm on board with it. You know, it's a contract. They secured a very good contract. We spoke on it multiple times. Contract says this is the number, this is what they're going to get, and that's what we got to do. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't think we should venture into going to court and arguing about it. It's 2 people. You know, I'm just looking down the road. Maybe somebody will retire in a couple, 3 weeks, couple months down the road, and that'll cover the 2 newest firefighters there. But there's no room, as far as I'm concerned, to cut them because it's in their contract. We got to abide by the contract. The money's going to have to come from somewhere. You're probably going to pay. They're already short on positions that weren't filled. The overtime is going to be incredible. I think Mary Beth said it was what, $580,000 this year. So we don't, you know, we can't afford that. We can afford $200,000, $230,000 is one thing. $500,000, $600,000 for overtime is another. So I'm you know, supporting keeping them.
Okay, very good. I am supportive of the 8 crossing guard positions. I think they're necessary. I think it's a compromise. We've heard from the community. We've heard from staff, particularly PD, explaining the busiest intersections. Hopefully, we can work with the district to come up with maybe some other alternatives to staff some of those. Like I know there's one in front of the middle school. Maybe there's a security guard at the school or a staff person that can assist with that. But I think we should have those conversations. As far as the Casey Park pool goes, I want to acknowledge and thank both the YMCA and Wegmans for stepping up. I am supportive of opening the pool for a month this year. I would like to talk about what days we're going to do that. I don't think it makes sense to just do Monday through Friday because people work and we want to get maximum use out of it if we're going to do this. And I too support funding those firefighter positions. And I think these 3 decisions, coupled with the additional $2 million that was allotted to us in this year's state budget and the additional cuts that we've been able to find will get us closer to a healthy fund balance so that we can continue our positive credit rating. and hopefully set us up for a good position next year. In terms of the crossing guards, I know that the state of New York reimburses school districts for busing. They don't reimburse school districts for crossing guards. And the cost differential between busing and crossing guards is astronomical. It's much more expensive to bus students. So I would like to reach out to our state representatives and see if they have an appetite to maybe initiate some legislation in the Senate and the Assembly to encourage, the state of New York to reimburse school districts for the crossing guards. So I think that's another approach we can take. Are you all set with input?
Yes.
And clear?
Yes, so just wanting to make sure I've got it correct. So we will provide funding in the budget for 8 crossing guards, Casey Park Pool for 4 weeks, 5 days a week, 5 hours. We'll work on which days of the week, make sure we're including a weekend day, and adding the firefighter positions back into the budget.
Very good. Council all set? All right, so we do have local law number 1 that we have to bring to the floor for a vote. This will authorize the City of Auburn to override the tax levy limited in New York State, GML Section 3C, for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2026. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Clarko, second by Councilor Cuddy. Any discussion, further discussion or questions from the council? Please call the roll.
Want me to read it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got to read it.
For the local law number 1 of 2026, whereas it is the intent of this local law to allow the City of Auburn to adopt the budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law, Chapter 24, Article 2, Section 3C. And whereas this local law is adopted pursuant to Subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law, Chapter 24, Article 2, Section 3C, which expressly authorizes a local government's governing body to override the property tax cap for the upcoming fiscal year by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of 60% of said governing body. And whereas the Auburn City Council of the City of Auburn, County of Cayuga finds that it is necessary that it must authorize the adoption of a budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2026, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law, Chapter 24, Article 2, Section 3C. Now therefore being enacted, that the City Council of the City of Auburn does hereby authorize the adoption of a budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law, Chapter 24, Article 2, Section 3C. Be it further enacted, a certified copy of the local law shall be filed with New York State Secretary of State and will take effect immediately.
I'm sorry, questions and discussion from the council? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilor Diego?
No.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy?
Yes.
Councilor Clarko? Aye. Mayor Genatino?
Aye.
Carried.
Is there any other business from the council tonight not related to the budget? All right. I understand there's a request for executive session.
Yes, Mayor, I have 5 matters related to the sale or lease of real property.
All right, very good. Do we have a motion for executive session? Councilor Clarko, second by Councilor Overstreet Wilson. Please call the roll.
Motion for executive session at 7:20. I do want to just let everybody know something. It appears as though that laptop might have crashed there right at the end of. So I'll have IT take a look at it in the morning, and we'll get fired back up. But I will let everybody know that this laptop continued working, and our meeting continued to record as it is supposed to. So there we go. 7:20 p.m. for executive session. Councilor Diego?
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy?
Yes.
Councilor Clarko? Mayor Genatino?
Aye, we'll be in recess for executive session.
Oh, good. Yeah. All right.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Oh, that's good. Oh, good. Oh, good for you. Give it to him. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna be teaching another camp, so I'm not gonna, but they got me teachers, so like, yeah. I'm like, oh, good. Oh, that'll be good for him. That'll be good for him.